Hello. How are you? So, yesterday I watched part one of WW1 Oversimplified. It was excellent. They were talking about, how the war began, the different kind of alliances, and trench warfare. All super interesting stuff. We're right in the meat of it now. I'm jumping into part two. Huge shout out, obviously, to Oversimplified. I mean, holy crap. Even part two has 33 million views. But go check him out. Let's watch. There it is. Whoa, what is my computer doing? Okay.
With both sides stuck in a hard stalemate, they knew this war wasn't going to be about taking territory, but about simply wearing each other down.
War of attrition.
The Allies had plenty of men
That's a thing.
to expend from its overseas dominions. And the British also started a naval blockade, so Germany couldn't import stuff, like food. Neither side really wanted a long, grueling war, though, so they both thought of ways to break the deadlock on the Western Front.
War
Rule
sucks.
number one, new frontiers. When the war first broke out, Australia was quick to take German New Guinea. The Allies also quickly jumped...
Wait, what's Australia doing?
When the war first broke out, Australia was quick to take German New Guinea.
Damn, Australia. I didn't know they were doing anything down there.
The Allies also quickly jumped on Germany's colonies in Africa, and particularly in German East Africa,
German East Africa. First time I've ever heard that country.
locals were enlisted as soldiers and carriers by both sides, leading to a tragic loss of life for the native Africans. Some new combatants entered the war as well. The Allies' new friends were Italy and Japan. Japan was busy building itself an empire, so it was more than happy to take away German islands and colonies in East Asia.
I can't believe I'm still just thinking about how Africa was involved in this war. I mean, this truly was a world war. I didn't realize Africa and Australia honestly had much of anything to do in it.
An empire, so it was more than happy to take away German islands and colonies in East Asia. Italy actually had an alliance with Germany and Austria-Hungary before the war, but after some tense relations, and then the Allies promising to give them some of Austria-Hungary's stuff, they switched sides. Italy
Damn.
had a front in the mountains here.
It's that
Like
easy,
everyone
huh?
else, they were stuck in stalemate for most of the war. The Central Powers' new friend was a struggling empire in the Middle East. The The Ottoman were divided on whether to actually join the war or not, since they had been exhausted by the recent Balkan Wars. Some of the politicians who did want to join went off on their own and fired some shells at Russia. And then came back and said, whoops, looks like we're at war now.
Dude, that's irresponsible.
The Ottoman entry into the war was of particular concern to the British, since the Middle East was full of
Imagine just dragging your entire country into war.
oil, and Britain wanted all of that oil. First, the Ottomans tried to attack Russia in the Caucasus Mountains, but they weren't prepared for the cold, and many of them froze to death. Then they crossed miles of desert to take the Suez Canal from the British, but that failed too. Then the Allies tried to take the Dardanelles at Gallipoli in a long and hard trench warfare campaign, but that also failed. The Ottomans blamed their initial losses on the ethnic Armenians living within Ottoman territory, and the resulting Armenian genocide led to the
That's the Armenian genocide. Okay, gotcha.
deaths of 1.5
Which I know a lot of people still deny even happened. It's crazy how that is with genocides, huh? A lot of people just say, as far as I know, that never happened. Damn. Okay. Gotcha.
500,000 people. Then the Germans sent
500,000.
spies into Afghanistan to try to convince the Arab tribes there to rise up in jihad against the British and attack India. But that
Wow, that's sneaky. That's messed up. Damn, I mean, oh my God. It's crazy the kind of shit that just goes on. There are truly no rules in love and war, especially not war. The Germans snuck in there to Afghanistan and tried to convince them to wage jihad against India.
that plan failed, partly because the spies got bored, brewed their own alcohol, and got drunk, which is a bad thing to do in Afghanistan. Only
There's no way that backfired.
these new frontiers hadn't done much to change the
They
war.
waged jihad against the German spies.
Aware that the Allies had more men and supplies than them, the Germans knew they had to do something to break the stalemate. Before the war, there was a big conference that set out the rules of modern warfare.
Hagu
chemical
conference.
weapons, no killing civilians. Basically,
I just said there were no wars, guys. Or no rules in war. But at least, you know, it's a nice idea to try to make rules.
Don't
Let's not kill civilians.
be jerks. The Germans held a meeting and decided to be jerks. Zeppelin air raids commenced over British cities.
There's no
They also
rules.
started attacking the Allied trenches with chlorine gas, and they used submarines to sink civilian ships.
I hate getting chlorine in my eyes. I can only imagine inhaling it.
One such civilian ship was the Lusitania, which had 159 Americans on board when it was sunk, further swaying U.S. opinion against the Germans.
Uh-oh.
Not to be completely unfair to the Germans, the Allies also engaged in chemical warfare soon after, and they had been hiding anti-submarine weapons on their civilian ships, which let the Germans justify their attacks. Meanwhile, Austria-Hungary still hadn't dealt with Serbia, so the Central Powers enlisted some...
I mean, the whole lot, I don't know. I was just thinking, like, the whole idea of any kind of rules and expecting anyone to follow them in war is an interesting concept. It's interesting.
...enlisted some help. Bulgaria wished it was bigger and was still bitter about losing the Second Balkan War. The Central Powers promised to make all of Bulgaria's wildest dreams come true if they helped, so they signed on, and together they knocked out Serbia. The Serbian troops retreated through Albania, which was neutral but had some ties to Austria-Hungary. So Austria-Hungary entered Albania in a friendly invasion to chase down the Serbians, many of whom escaped by sea.
Friendliest invasion ever, guys.
It's 1916, and a lot is happening. As if they didn't have enough enemies already, Germany added one more to the list. Portugal had been getting a bit chummy with the Allies behind the scenes, and Germany didn't like that one bit. Around the same time...
Damn. Germany, I think, just in hindsight, maybe they should have just chilled out, you know? Like, maybe to let Portugal let it go.
Sea battle of the war happened.
You've got enough on your plate.
Both sides had a new powerful class of battleships called dreadnoughts, but they were so expensive to build that neither side wanted to risk losing them in a battle, so they kept them in port, except for one time when they had a big fight and a bunch of them got damaged, so they didn't try that again. The UK started conscripting men to the army, so they had
It's so dumb.
plenty of reserves, which
So
was
silly.
just as well because the Western Front was about to get brutal. The longest and one of the bloodiest battles of the war started when the Germans launched an attack around the French city of Verdun. The French defended it desperately, leading to hundreds of thousands of casualties. Under
Oh my
pressure,
God.
the French called on its allies to do something to draw the Germans' attention away. So the British started their own long and brutal fight, the Battle of the Somme, with 60,000 British casualties on just the first day. It was also here that
Just the first day. Dude, I mean, you got to hand it to the British as far as being friends. Good allies to the French. They said, okay, we're willing to step in, step up, and die because you guys are getting pummeled down there. We got it. Here we go.
the British first used one crazy brand new piece of sci-fi technology.
What the hell's that?
The Russians
Oh, a tank. Yeah, okay. It was a weird-looking tank.
had been getting pushed back further and further into their own territory, but in response to the French call for help, they began a huge offensive, and did really well until they ran out of supplies and got stuck. Seeing how well the Russians had been doing, Romania decided now would be a great time to jump in and win the war, and then they got pounded. The Greeks were fighting amongst themselves about whether to join the war or not. The king liked the Central Powers, while the Prime Minister wanted to join the Allies. After a brief national
Awkward.
schism, during which the country split into two, the king finally abdicated and the country reunited. With Allied help, they began a new offensive. In the Middle East, Russia was pushing into Ottoman territory from the north.
I didn't know the Middle East were involved in this, like, at all, either. Just once again admitting how ignorant I am. But hey, that's in the title.
In the Middle East, Russia was pushing into Ottoman territory from the north. The British had also made a landing in Mesopotamia to protect Persia's oil fields, and they had also sent a small army up the Tigris River to try to take Baghdad, but the army got sieged in the town of Kut along the way, and eventually surrendered. A new offensive was launched from the south with all-out desert warfare. The offensive was aided by one famous British officer, better known as
Desert
Lawrence of
warfare.
Arabia, who helped lead the Arab tribes in a revolt that wreaked havoc on the Ottoman supply lines. By the time 1917 rolled around, everyone was exhausted. There were mutinies in the French army, the German populace was starving, and the war had drained all of Russia's supplies. There was no clear winner, and it was still anyone's war. The only question now was, who was going to break first? And the answer was Russia. Tired of not eating, and mad that a crazy magic homeless guy was calling some of the shots, there was an uprising in Petrograd, complete with riots and strikes. The riots turned into a full-scale
shit.
revolution, and a new government overthrew the Tsar.
Imagine we see this play out again. I'm just saying, imagine. I don't think it's to that point yet, but imagine.
With riots and strikes. The riots turned into a full-scale revolution, and a new government overthrew the Tsar. Then a few months later, the Bolsheviks overthrew the new government, and they pulled Russia out of the war. This was great news for Germany, who now only had to focus on the Western Front. But there was still one problem. The pesky United States of America was looking increasingly like it was going to join the war. America had been selling supplies to the Allies throughout the war and was getting super rich off the back.
How does America manage to put itself in that position constantly? I mean, that really is a question I have. Like, what did we do to get into this position where we just get to sell everybody arms? I guess we just make a lot of really good weapons.
Meaning it was in fantastic shape and was dangerous to the Germans. So Germany sent a telegram to Mexico saying, wouldn't it be crazy cool if you guys attacked America? But the British intercepted the message, showed it to the Americans, and that was the final straw.
Oh my
American
God.
troops began...
Dude, like, what would have happened if that message had just gotten through? Could it have changed history? That's the question. American forces would have been, if Mexico had followed along and attacked United States from the south and diverted our troops' attention down there.
Shipping out to Europe. This was
just kind of shit I can't imagine.
Terrible news for Germany, and they knew their only hope now was to force France and the UK to surrender before the fresh American troops arrived. It was now or never, so they started one final attack. They converged their troops and hit hard at the Somme and pushed the Allies back. They hit a second time further north, then again,
oh my God.
and again. With each hit, the Germans were spending more and more resources, while the Allies were getting better and better at repelling their attacks. By the fifth punch, the Allies held the line and even pushed back. With American troops now arriving in larger numbers, the Allies launched a counterattack, and that was it. The Central Powers were being pushed back on all fronts.
And that was it.
Bulgaria collapsed first, followed by the Ottoman Empire, then Austria-Hungary, and finally on November 11th, 1918...
Hold on. You're telling me that was America's part in World War I? That was it? We only had like one flag on the map. Look. That's it?
That was it. The Central Powers were being pushed back on all fronts. Bulgaria collapsed first, followed by the Ottoman Empire, then Austria-Hungary, and finally on November 11th, 1918, at 11 o'clock, Germany surrendered.
It's no wonder there's people in America talk so much more about World War II.
At the peace treaty, Germany was forced to reduce its military, accept war guilt, and pay the bill for the war.
I can't believe this happened twice.
After indescribable suffering and millions dead, the world learnt its lesson and never had such an awful war again. For about 20 years.
Damn. Damn. Oh my God, that was very... I'm very satisfied with learning all that information. I feel like that was embarrassing that I didn't know a lot of that to begin with. And now, at least I know 10 minutes or like 12 minutes worth of information. But this guy does an amazing job at condensing it all down into the most important beats and explaining it from a neutral standpoint, I think, in my opinion. 10 out of 10 oversimplified. Go buy his t-shirt. Yeah, that was just amazing. I look forward to watching the World War II series. Because that was just, I mean, that what an awesome video. No question. No wonder why it has 33 million views. Damn. I can't believe how small the U.S. part was in World War I. Like, we were really just the last nation to, the last big player to come in and choose a side. And when we did, there had been so much war of attrition already that just the threat of America beginning to step in was like, all right, this is over. Like, with them coming in, they're fresh. They haven't battled. They have all these fresh soldiers and stuff. There's no point. That's crazy. Anyway, thank you for watching, guys. Thank you to Oversimplified for that video. Thank you for watching. Thank me for, I don't know. Yeah. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.